Hi, this is Dr. Jason O'Connor from O'Connor Chiropractic. We're going to be talking about technology and the negative impacts it's having on ourselves and our children. I think it's very topical at the moment because we're generally just coming out of lockdown and people just going back to offices. And as a chiropractor, I've seen challenges, but also as a father of a 2-year-old and a 9-year-old, I've seen big challenges as well. So it's very close to my heart. Something I get concerned about is just how much time now children are spending on technology, whether that's on phones or on their iPads or on laptops, and ourselves, because we can I can see when I first started as a chiropractor, I do a very physical, hands-on job. But now I'm using an iPad every day to input notes, and I think everything, whatever line of work you're in, certainly technology has taken much more of a bigger role in it. And I think at first I was like, I'm never letting my son or child have a mobile phone, iPad, because I was thinking it's so bad for their posture and their health. But the reality is this modern life, and it's trying to make it as good as we possibly can. So hopefully I can give you some tips and help you with that. But I think it's almost developing like a perfect storm. I'm seeing more children with worse postures, with more neurological problems, and I really think we've developed an environment where it's been able to flourish and prosper much more. And what I mean by that is kids are probably less fit than ever. It's sad to say, but I'm seeing more children who are overweight with obesity. So I think a lot of kids are doing less sport and more sitting at school, more kind of priority around using technology, and then also socially, less playing outside, more computer games. Fortnite, my son's really into, drives me mad. And I think it's a combination of all that. It's leading to more health problems in terms of their spine, their posture, and then you combine that with, I know it's all the stuff my son's now putting in his backpack, so he's now loading his backpack even more, carrying all his his books and his PE kit. So you think the average child, as I say, is less fit, maybe more overweight, their posture's worse, and then they're on mobile media a lot more, and then they're carrying things and they're getting injured more. So we're seeing more like back injuries, strains, more children presenting with headaches, migraines, as I say, back pain, neck pain. And it's kind of, if they're getting these problems now, where are they going to be 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line? And I think we're building that towards a kind of epidemic of kind of problems really with the spine and the nervous system. So I just wanted to, where are we getting the issues, where are we getting the problems, and how can we possibly combat that? And as I said, these phones are often the worst. So I've got a little mini station set up here, and it's purposely poor because I'm sure a lot of you have been working at kitchen tables, coffee tables, kitchen sides. So you've probably had a similar setup to this. But starting with the phone, the phone's often the worst because we're often holding it in like this, heads down, putting a lot of strain through the neck, a lot of strain through the eye muscles as well. And they're just often addicted to it and never away from it, and using, often playing more games on phones as well. So I'm amazed how many different games are played on this. But yeah, it's all in this kind of posture. So what you want to try and do is to teach kids, rather than like stooping, if they are going to be using the phone, making them sit back into the chair, holding a little bit more upright. If they've got like a table they can rest their arms on, even better. And then rather than letting the head come forward, try and teach them to keep the chin away from the chest and look more down their eyes, and also just limit the time. Just give them set times, right? You're allowed this amount of time before you have dinner in the evening, so things like that. I think try and set boundaries with it. You not always succeed, but I think that'll help limit the stress on it. It's similar to probably iPads, because again they're maybe doing schoolwork or again playing games usually on there. So it's a similar thing. If you can try and get them to hold upright, it's a bit easier with these because often they can have built-in stands like this one, so you can actually position it, or fancier stands which will hold it upright. It's pretty good investing in one of those. But yes, similar with the iPads. Again, ones that can be even worse are your laptops, because not only is it's often too low, what we're doing, we're reaching in and we're getting that forward head position and that fatiguing of the neck muscles. So again, obviously the best position is to be standing. So if you can stand, you know, get the children maybe working at home on the kitchen side, so they're stood up, so their neck is in a much better position. You can get raisers or adjustable desks, they're brilliant. Try, if you are going to sit in a more upright dining chair, try and avoid the sofa at all costs. I think that's one of the worst things. You're up on the sofa, feet up. So yeah, just those usual things. And one of the main things is make sure that the screen is in line with eye level. So we're looking straight ahead there. So you probably think, well, how can you type? So a lot of times you can get these USB keyboards and mouse. So you could have your laptop up on a stand, and then you could be using a separate USB keyboard and mouse, which again can often help. Again, not just from you working at home, but also the kids if they're doing homework from it as well. So those are the kind of tips in terms of position. Now, the significance of this is not just like an achy back, an achy neck, the poor posture that's developing. It's how that's impacting on a growing spine and a nervous system. And I want to just use this model here just to kind of explain it. Hope you can see there's a light on in here. And I always say to patients when they come in, what's the most important organ in the body? And most people, what do they go for? The heart, because that's what they teach at school. But by far, we know it's the brain. The reason why it's the brain is because it controls absolutely everything. And even these organs do amazing things, but they're pretty stupid. The heart doesn't know how fast to beat, what blood pressure's there. Your stomach doesn't know how to digest a meal, you just know how to grow a baby. All that intelligence is within the brain. And you know, this is unfathomable, but the brain deals with 3 trillion bits of information per second. So you've got all these neural connections going on in the brain, and they're passing down through the spinal cord and out through these nerves. So if you think of like when we've got this nice position, nice C curve in the neck, that flow of information is kind of uninterrupted. So think of like a hose pipe, you know, the flow of the water coming through. So exactly the same with the spine. Now we talked about all the bad positions and also about forward head carriage. Now what that effectively does is it stresses and strains the neck, and it pulls forward. So think of like a banana with a C curve in, and then you bent the banana the wrong way. You know what would happen? Now often, what would happen to the flesh in the middle? So that same kind of strain and tensions happen in the spinal cord. So those signals, then what are going to do is they're going to start to reduce, try to dull down. So not only the signals coming through the spinal cord, but also the signals going back up to the brain. So we're actually reducing brain wave activity and reducing neural firing in the brain, and also the connection going down. So my role as the chiropractor is to look at the health and integrity of the spine and to start to return it back to normal alignment position, therefore increasing that neural connection, that flow. Again, think of that hose pipe with a kink in it, reducing the flow, we're going to open it out. So every time you see your child when they're in this forward position, think that what it's doing not just to their spines, but to their brain. So you're actually reducing that brain activity. So in terms of, the brain's going to be more sluggish, be more lethargic, concentration levels, attention at school. So probably things that you may have noticed. Certainly I've kind of noticed that. I was just saying at home, because my son's not been able to see his friends as much, or the clubs, sporting clubs that he goes to, attends, they stopped for a long time, nearly 2 years. And the only kind of communication that he was having was, playing on games on the computer and talking to his friends. So that was like socially how they were interacting. So I didn't want to stop him doing that, but I noticed, his mood, behaviour, sluggishness certainly come in. And just this week, I feel like a taxi driver again. But my daughter's back at the swimming. He's back he does rugby. He's doing climbing. He's doing, was doing golf as well, and he's back doing CrossFit. So he's doing all these kind of exercises which are moving his spine, but also stimulating his brain. And the change in his mood, his behaviour, his attitude, his enthusiasm, and just see that go up. And it's that neural connection. His brain is now more firing, more switched on. So I just really urge you to, to look at the children, see their habits. And I know it's tough because, like, I run a business. We've got 2 children, young children. You're trying to sort the house out, sort dinner out. You're doing all these things at once. And it's so easy to think, oh gosh, they're happy on the phone, they're happy playing the computer games. And I always say it's like a short easy, but a long hard. So in the short term, yes, it's easy to get things sorted and get your stuff done and get a tea made and get that out. But long term, what's that doing in terms of the impact of their health and their behaviour and the challenge they're going to have by getting those bad habits now? Because often they say that, if they're doing it as a young child, they're going to be doing more when they get to secondary school. Obviously more if they then go into further education, and then they maybe go into a job where they're sat on it all day. So you start in these really poor patterns. It's a bit like tooth decay. It's like if your kids, were having too much sugar, they weren't flossing, they weren't brushing, they weren't visiting a dentist. What would the teeth look like in 5, 10, 15 years time? So I see this as a very similar comparison, that if they're getting really poor posture early on when their spine's growing and developing, they're doing less exercise, they're starting early kind of degeneration to decay in their spine and their nervous system at that age. What's it going to look like 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line? So getting them in really good habits now, maybe it's a bit harder for you in terms of having that challenging conversation with them. But I always say, if you tell them why, they're going to comply. So if you just shout at them, get off the computer, stop doing that, they just feel like they're being told off. But I often sit down and explain to my son, look, this is going to affect the growth of your spine, it's going to affect your nervous system, and kind of relate it to things that he does. So you're going to be you're not going to perform well as rugby, you're not going to be fast, you're not going to be strong. And I try and relate to that, and I think he gets that. And I think if you educate them early on, it's going to be easier for them to start taking their own responsibility and thinking, oh, this is something I've been sat here for too long. Oh, my neck does ache, it must be related to what I'm doing. Because I think a lot of kids have no connection to maybe problems they're getting with their health to what they're doing day to day. But if you're actually explaining that to them and why it would cause their spine, their nervous system problems, they'll soon pick that up, and I think they'll take responsibility for it as well. So not always, it's like not all kids want to brush their teeth, certainly when they're young they don't, but usually they kind of get it and they start those good habits going forward. So that was the main thing that I wanted to say about kind of position. The best thing, like I say, getting the head up, getting the eyes in line with the monitor, lifting the phone up, lifting the iPad up. Set boundaries, so try and reduce the time as much as you possibly can. I know you can't reduce completely, but kind of set boundaries. And I don't like to do it as a reward, because it's like, all right, you've been really good, you've done your chores or you've done your homework, now you can do something that's bad for your health. So it doesn't seem right to me, but like you say, you can almost give it a reward for their, they can use their spare time, their free time to do some of that on gaming, social media, but you've really got to control it and so they recognise it isn't good for their health. And certainly as an adult, you probably see that exactly the same for yourself, don't you? When you've not got up enough during the day, when you've been stuck to that screen, and literally you feel like a zombie. Over 50% of brain activity, this is the signals coming up and being processed in the brain, comes through the cerebellum, which is about movement. So when we don't move, when we're not moving around, you're almost like shutting down 50% brain activity. So this is why we feel like a zombie, we feel sluggish, lethargic. As humans, we're designed to be hunter-gatherers. So your spine, your brain, your nervous system was designed to be a hunter-gatherer. That means up all day, walking around, bending, twisting, lifting. So often people get up in the morning, drive to work for an hour, sit at a desk 6-7 hours, drive back in, sit on the sofa, watch Netflix. Hopefully that doesn't sound too familiar, but we know ourselves, we've got to break those patterns, get more exercise in. What I've tried to do is, rather than just tell my son, right, you can't play games all the time, I literally say to him, right, we're off out for a walk, or right, let's go play football, and I'll take him to the straight. And you're kind of killing two birds with one stone, and 3 birds if you like. you're getting them off the technology, getting them off the computer, breaking that cycle. You're getting them exercising, and you're getting yourself exercising, and you're spending time together as a family. So it's not wasted time. I know we're all time precious, and we've got so many things to fit in, but I always say there's nothing more important than your health. Your most valuable commodity is your health. If you don't invest in your health, you know, if you're going to spend time getting yourself well, you know, be prepared to put time aside to be sick and to be less productive. So it's not a waste of time getting out, getting moving, getting exercising, and just look at your day, see how you can structure it better, look at how your work's set up, and look at moving. You know, the spine, as I say, is armour for the most important system in the body, your central nervous system. If your spine deteriorates, you deteriorate, your health deteriorates, your organs deteriorate. So it's so crucial that you get your kids in, you know, really good habits early. As I say, look how much time and effort you tell them to get them to brush their teeth. I mean, your teeth are, you know, don't get me wrong, your teeth are important to your health, but they're nowhere near as important to your health, you know, as in terms of your spine, your central nervous system. So you invest the time and effort to keeping the spine working well, healthy, and get those kids into great habits. So what we're to do, if you've got any questions about any of that, any tips or anything that you want to get, just drop us a message here, or drop us a direct message or an email, and we'll get straight back to you. Certainly, if you recognise any of those patterns in your children, get them checked. You know, like I say, the earlier you get them checked, the better. Just like we were saying with the teeth, you want to wait till they've got toothache, or you know the teeth are rotting, and then try and deal with it. So again, with the children's spine, we see a lot of young children early, not because they've got back pain, neck pain, but just to make sure they're in good alignment, they've got good habits, and to educate them about their spine, and to make sure they're growing and developing at their optimum. So yeah, certainly get the kids in, get them checked. I always say the earlier they are, the less, you know, the better results they're going to get, then the less care they're going to need, less time, less money. So there's so much benefit in getting children checked early, rather than waiting till they're developing chronic problems down the line. And certainly for yourself, you're probably recognising a lot of these issues, probably sore necks, shoulders, headaches, you know, migraines, loss of energy, enthusiasm, mood issues. You're amazed how much that will be connected to this chronic kind of lifestyle stresses that we're now doing. So as I say, get in touch. We're here to help. We're here to give advice, and we're also going to drop in a link to some exercises. So Cal, our in-house PT, he's run through some particular postural exercises for your neck, your upper back, to strengthen that, to help holding you in the correct position as well. So okay, hope everyone stays well and healthy, and yeah, we look forward to speaking to you soon and seeing you soon in clinic.
Hi guys, I just wanted to quickly talk to you today about overuse of technology and the impact that it has on our posture. So whether it's to do with our new working environment, laptops and computers at home, on desks or standing, or driving to work sat in a car for a long commute, or whether it's recreational in terms of being on our phone or gaming or anything that's in front of us. We are spending more and more time in two different postures, which are creating a number of problems with our body. So the first posture is a pronated posture, so we see lots of rounded shoulders, very hunched backs, and that gives us weakness through the chest and the front of our shoulders, as well as the back of our shoulders and into the centre of our upper back. And then the second posture is a Lordotic posture. So I think when we're sat down leaning forwards and using our computer, or sat driving, we tend to be in that Lordotic posture where our hips are in a weakened position and our hamstrings and glutes are in a lengthened and weakened position as well. All of these culminate in various forms of pain. Lower back pain is pretty common, sciatic pain, so any pain down the side of our legs, and then shoulder impingement and any pain raising our shoulder overhead in these movements here. If that sounds like something that you're experiencing, then I've got a couple of different circuits that will help with relieving that pain and strengthening those areas involved. So the first one is going to be an upper body circuit. So for this, ideally we'll use a resistance band, a TheraBand or anything like that will work really well. We're going to fix our elbows into our sides, and we're going to grip onto the band with an underhand grip. This whole time we're going to keep our elbows pinned into our sides and we're going to rotate externally as far as we can. A little pause at our biggest point of movement, so as wide as we can, and come back in. What I don't want us to do is create more range by letting our elbows lift off away from our sides. Keep them really strictly tucked in, and you should feel that stretch and strengthening movement through the back of our shoulders. So that's movement 1. Movement 2 is going to be an overhead press. So we're going to lean against the wall, move your feet away from the wall a little bit so that you can push your upper back into the wall as well as having your bum touching the wall. Here we're going to put the backs of our hands against the wall and drive up overhead, trying to keep our hands in contact with the wall the whole time. As you can see, I can get to about here before my hands want to start coming away. So we're really trying to combat that by pushing our hands back firmly into the wall whilst maintaining our back and bum connected to the wall too. So that's the 2 strengthening movements. A couple of stretches to have a look at. The first one's for a chest stretch. So we're going to use a bench or a bed or a sofa. We're going to place our forearm onto the edge of there and just let our body weight drop through and turn away from that bench. Here we should be creating a big stretch here. You may have seen this done on a door frame where you're leaning through, but I find it more effective to use the weight of our body to stretch our chest there. And then the final stretch is going to be a child's pose. So we're going to kneel down with our feet slightly narrower than our knees, and we're going to wriggle our hands out as far as we can in front, trying to press our forehead into the floor. This should be a big stretch across the top of our back and into our shoulders, and then with that circuit on repeat, so I would do 10 reps and 30 seconds, and then have a little rest, and then go back through that a couple more times. We've got a lower body circuit, so one of the first things we're going to do is stretch into our hip flexors. So we're going to kneel down with one leg and one leg up. We're going to try and create a nice right angle in all of our joints. And then we're going to think about pushing our hips through, so there's a stretch here. What we're not doing is leaning over and lunging. So keep that hip and pelvis tucked under and push through from there. Not a very big movement, but you should feel the stretch up the front of your thigh and into that hip flexor. Secondary to that, we're going to have a look at a hip flexor raise. So we're going to stick one foot on something raised if you're fairly flexible, something like a bench. If not so much, then a lower step is absolutely fine. And all we're going to do from there is balance through one leg and lift through the other. So that top end range of movement is all in your hip flexors. So that is working those hip flexors, like that. And then we just switch sides and do exactly the same on the other side. Our third movement is going to be a bodyweight Romanian deadlift, or touching your toes in more simple terms. So we're going to place our palms on our thighs and we're just going to reach down towards our toes. We're going to try and maintain a roughly neutral back. Because there's no external load, we haven't got a barbell on the back or a weight in front of us, it doesn't matter too much if we round, but we're going to try and maintain as neutral a spine as possible. As we get to the extremity of our limit, we're going to hold, spend some time in that stretch. It should be uncomfortable, not painful, and then stand ourselves back up. And then our fourth and final movement is going to be a hip thrust. So we're going to lay on the mat with our feet about a hand's distance from our bum, and all we're going to do is drive those hips up, big squeeze of our glutes at the top of each rep, and back down to rest. Here we're strengthening our glutes and our hamstrings. Big squeeze at the top, and back down. As with the other circuit, I recommend